All right, everybody. This is the August 20th Tinderbox meeting. Welcome. And let's jump right in. Typical Tinderbox format. We talk about the projects we're working on, our thoughts or ideas that we have around knowledge management and the use of our fun tool. We were playing around with some RegEx and explode functions before we started the video. If anyone has interest, we can circle back on some of that. Typical, again, for those that have never been here before, we invite new members to introduce themselves. Then we talk about what we're working on, and then we dig into different projects just to explore how we're using this tool and exploring all of our knowledge. So with that in mind, I don't see anyone new. So let's just go around the table. I haven't met you very much, Dan. Is this your first time? I don't think so. But
no.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not. Sorry, I haven't interacted with you that often. So you're
just once before on a Saturday. Sundays are a little bit rough.
Got it. Okay, so I get a pass if I didn't. Maybe it was a Saturday I wasn't there. So let's jump in. Who wants to talk about what they're doing, how they're using Tinderbox, what challenges or problems they're trying to face, what they're exploring with doing? And then, as always, once we've kind of gone through that path, I've got a bunch of stuff I've been playing with this week that I'll happily share. So who wants to jump in? David was talking about importing as a theme or a topic that was important to him, and we could discuss that. We could talk about, and then obviously once you've got data into the Tinderbox, then how do you triage it? So we could talk about that. Who else has any other ideas, thoughts?
This will be an ongoing thing. So the reason I'm interested in Tinderbox is basically a primary issue is retirement brain drain. Old goats like us are leaving. The systems are still in place and will continue to be in place. So somehow I'm dreaming of a toolbox, of which obviously Tinderbox is the central component, to somehow make it possible, feasible, for at departmental level, not central IT, but departmental level, hired summer intern, try to figure out the software that some piece of a business or organization depends on. So yeah. That's what I'm after.
No, that's a really good one. I mean, Isaac Asimov has a whole bunch of writing about how over the years, we end up forgetting how to fix the stuff we've built. So those hover elevators we've built no longer function, and nobody knows how to fix them anymore.
The classic entry is the book. I think it's 1903 or something. The machine stops.
Oh, I've not heard that one. Can you put it in the chat? That sounds interesting.
Okay, will do. Okay, that's my 2 cents for the day. I don't want to. I can dominate this, but I won't.
So, David, a question for you. How would you compare what you're talking about to another topic that's been getting a lot of attention lately, which would be software bill of materials?
Funny thing about that. Well, I would contend putting on my vendor hat. So the greater context here is I'm the guy that coined the term Y2K, blah, blah, blah. So that was a hell of an education of how organizations avoid doing hard work. And as a vendor, where I play is step 0. You got to know what you have before you sit down and squabble over what you're going to do about it. Mm-hmm. And if my first customer was Army Logistics, the biggest, oldest, nastiest, ugliest set of software. Totally common, very common profile, except for age. Organizations do not carry, they do the concept, well, another piece of context for me, I'm largely from the financial services side, insurance, mutual funds, banking, et cetera, et cetera. In financial services, the concept of a bill of materials is just non-existent. It just doesn't exist. If you're in a business that has mechanical things that you need to piece together, bill of materials is more prevalent if thinly practiced. So people are getting aware this movement, we're going to the cloud. Well, what are we moving to the cloud? They don't have a firm inventory. of what's going up there. And then you throw in the levels and levels and levels and levels of dependency in, quote, modern software libraries, and you have no idea what you're putting into use inside your software portfolio. Yeah. So software bill of materials is very, very important, right up my alley. And I see Tinderbox and a bunch of the other Macintosh tools, obviously BBedit, DevonThink, a bunch of absolutely off-the-shelf tools stitched together somehow to start exploring when things start to break and the subject matter expert has retired. How do we fix them?
Well, on that note, actually, this raises a really interesting question. And before I move on, I think you raise a really great point. And to bring it down to earth to what we're doing here is in the realm of note taking and personal knowledge management. There is for lack of a better term, a bill of materials, aka a suite of products and services that we use to be able to pull together all of our services. And if you all recall, and I've talked about this numerous times, it's I'm now 10 years plus 3 in in my resurgence with Tinderbox. And back on, when was the date? August 21st, I wrote this. So nearly 2 years ago. 2 years ago tomorrow. No, not around that. I wrote this blog article that talked about my experience with Tinderbox and how what I realized, and that's when I first kind of envisioned this idea of the 5 C's of knowledge management. And what I realized was there was a suite of apps that I used to make this experience come together. And because not all one app is can do everything. And so with that in mind, I think that's somewhat what we're talking about too, is what is our bill of materials, if you will? What is the suite of applications that we use to be able to manage our note-taking, exploration, and process? Likewise, what are then the functions, the subset functions that we use within those tools to be able to do that and how they communicate together? And with that in mind, just this last weekend, Dominique, you presented this wonderful workflow for us in the community, and talked about how been using Tinderbox. And I think this is again a pertinent discussion when we think about the bill of materials of our knowledge management. Riffing off of this term that David and Chuck have brought up, or Chuck brought up the term and David reacted. Starting with Tinderbox, and Dominic, let me walk you through this flow. But the best I explain it is, you start with Tinderbox, you collect some notes, you collect some first draft notes. In Nicholas Luhmann's language, this would be your process to achieving Zettels. You're doing some brainstorming, then exporting out to Scrivener, start doing some writing in Scrivener, maybe do some markup interactions with that. Then going into RStudio. From that, you're pulling in front matter YAML files, back matter YAML files to be able to produce and interact with your LaTeX. These are all just different elements of the software. Pulling in a CSL file. If anybody's interested, I can show you what that looks like, but that's basically a formatted methodology for doing APA-styled referencing. And then out of the RStudio, you get Word, PDFs, maybe a LaTeX output, do some more rewriting. Ultimately, your work ends up in a journal. So this is an example of a bill of materials of not just software, but services and a workflow to go from, hey, I got a note, to I've got a series of notes, to I actually have a published journal article. And I thought this was really a well laid out and nice example. This morning, or last night, I should say, I looked at that and I marked up my version of that workflow, and the elements here, the arrows showing, like, I pulled these arrows off to the left and I put these elements into the Tinderbox. The arrows going down, I'm activating through Pandoc, and so I've kind of moved them down. And then where they have the RegEx arrows, not that I don't want to learn how to use them, but I don't know RStudio, and I used to use Scrivener. I don't use it anymore, so I put an X on those. Not to say that they're bad. This is just my workflow. And then And the reason why I'm doing this is I noticed in your workflow, you've got a number of rewriting steps. And for me, what that means is I've now got multiple places where versions of my content have been rewritten. And so therefore I've got multiple places to have to consolidate. Whereas in the workflow I've done is I'm doing all of my rewriting in Tinderbox. And so therefore all of my revisions are in Tinderbox. And so therefore everything I'm doing is in one place. And so from that single source of content, then everything gets pointed out. And so these are just two different perspectives on that kind of software design method. So I'll shut up now and let you guys comment. But that was kind of a reaction I had to what you two were talking about. Mr. Chuck.
So, Michael, just a quick comment. So we don't get confused. A software bill of materials would be the listing of all of the applications that you're referencing. So Pandoc,
correct,
Scrivener, things like that. What you're showing here is a workflow. And
well, so yeah, I agree. Well, there's both here. There's Pandoc, there's Tinderbox. So that's the software built. There's Pandoc, PowerPoint, Excel. These are all different pieces of software in that bill of materials, and then the workflow on how that comes together for me. So it's a mixture of two concepts.
Yeah, it's a mixture of concepts, but I was just trying to, so that people don't get confused about the terminology. It's just discriminating. I mean, there's, you can say I have a car, and here's what I do to start the car, drive it out of the driveway, things like that. That would be a workflow of sorts. A bill of materials might be all the things that go into the car, or
right.
Things that go into the user interface of the car. So I'm just drawing the distinction
right.
so that we don't get confused by the terminology.
Right, and to be specific, here's my bill of materials for my workflow, or one of the versions of it.
That's correct.
And here is my merging workflow. Excuse me, here's the bill of materials in my software that I use for my what I do. And then here is the combination of both workflow and where those different pieces of software fit into that workflow.
Right.
Yep. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, questions on that topic, or do we want to move on? Chuck, your hand's still raised.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. And Dominic, did you have any additional discussion you wanted to have around that? Okay. If you do pop off a mute, that's fine. So anybody else?
Hey, David, I'm former military, so.
Okay, you're pickled in this shit.
Well, what you were describing, we used to call a contingency workbook that you always got together for when the IG was coming, and then once the IG was gone,
you ignore it
because documentation is always going out of date, and you can spend a lot of your time keeping documents up to date, but the processes change fast.
Right.
That idea of a bill of materials, the company I work for now, they've decided to go open source a couple of years back. And now what they're doing is they're finding that the bill of materials is relying on open source packages that come from the Ukraine, that the guy is no longer available because he's in a foxhole somewhere.
Right.
So yeah, this is.
But again, and so on that note, this is where I think the concept that we were talking about last week becomes increasingly important. This idea of separating structure from content,
exactly.
from appearance. Yeah. So in Tinderbox, you have pure digital content, independent of structure, independent of process, independent of appearance. So when the process changes, you've got all the raw material that you then can easily, and again, going back to this picture, this is why I try to keep everything in Tinderbox and keep it separate, keep as much digitally native pure content as possible, independent of structured appearance, because then that makes getting into different that content into different workflows or into different processes so much easier.
Yes.
Hold on. Yeah, I don't. Sorry. Posting another thing. Dan. Yeah. The thing is, the context here is I grew up 6 miles from the Pentagon.
Okay.
So in a civilian, my father was a seven levels down in the civilian world. Unfortunately, he looked down. Everything was below him.
Okay.
And I make no distinction between open source and something I'm writing. It's for lack of documentation. No one really understands how it works when you have to open it up again in 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months or 20 years. And that is, you put your finger spot on it. No one's going to pay to keep the documentation accurate. So, and it's basically human nature. We wait until something's broken. Then we send in the firefighting team. Witness what's going on in the Ukraine.
Right.
We had plenty of warning it was coming. And this is just human nature. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Y2K. So I look at Tinderbox and Michael's list of tools, and I'm going to compare my own list, and what is Michael using that I haven't thought of yet, haven't encountered yet. It's going to come down to basically a manager and a programmer who need to fix something. You know, it's the sergeant and the grunt.
Yeah.
And that's what life comes down to. And as our cohort here ages out, we're going to dump this stuff in the laps of the kids who have only been taught that Python is the language, or Java. Or I mean, Java's 30 years old now. It's getting to be legacy.
Right.
And I mean, legacy software, and that's actually the name of the company I work for, Legacy Software Limited in the UK. If it works, it's legacy.
Right.
That's it. Don't get into this bullshit about open source. I mean, open source is no more open or closed than your own software. The guy that wrote it and didn't document it, he leaves. That's closed source.
Yeah.
And then you bring in a package, you bring in open source, and as always, we're unique. Dan, you didn't volunteer which service you were in, because
Air Force.
Oh dear. Okay.
Then I was a GS employee with the Air Force and an Air Reserve technician.
Okay. So keeping the birds flying. That's an inventory control problem. Bill of materials, right?
Right.
I remember long ago being on an airplane flying with somebody who was talking about the documentation for I don't know, some fighter jet, an F-15 or something, took up 2 boxcars full of paper documentation.
We had a rule that the airplane could not take off until the paperwork outweighed the airplane.
But, you know, I got to throw in, my father flew P-38s in the Pacific Theater during World War II.
Wow.
And that was a plane. They handed the, you can still get it online. In fact, you can get it off of Amazon, the instruction manuals for that plane and all the documentation. It really was just a couple of books. It was not heavier than the plane. Which, you know, is another comment on how we've taken simple concepts and added complexity over a long period of time by many different actors, achieving very different objectives, and expecting all that to be integrated.
And I go ballistic when people use the word integrated. We will talk interoperable. We will not talk integrated. Integrated is not possible. But anyway.
All right, but we digress.
Oh, Michael, we digress. You're on the right path.
Perfect. So, what else do we want to discuss? If not, I can go. We can dig a little bit more into explodes. We can dig in a little bit more playing with the regex. If you guys want to see some additional kind of examples that I was playing with last week, happy to share those. If you have any projects you're working on, like you know, what type of note taking or you know, documentation or writing efforts do you guys have underway? We can dig into Bruce's list management experiences. What do you guys want to play with?
Michael, was it you that was showing us the Kindle notes exploding?
Well, that wasn't Kindle Notes. It was just notes, but I was just showing. Yes.
Well, I tried to. I'm taking the. Don't turn my camera off when I say this, but Tiago Forte is building a second brain, which is a brother from the same mother, I think, of what your 5 C's is. When I took the Kindle's notes, all it does is it gives you the page and the location in the title. So what I was doing was exploding on those titles, and that was really a huge help.
Yeah. No, I love Tiago Forte. He's fantastic. I just got his book, actually. It's somewhere. His new book just came out.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm learning Tinderbox by taking BASB and going through the code process that he brings out of collect and organize, distill, and express.
Mm-hmm.
But getting the simple title to split at the greater than character with a regex, that proved to be beyond my abilities with Tinderbox's regex engine. That
so I think that could be a good topic for today. And I can also and again, it's interesting how the stars align. I can also show the importance of documentation and coding. So what I don't understand right now, though, is you're talking about Kindle.
Yeah, when you do a Kindle highlight, it stores that highlighted note to Amazon, and then you can download up to 10% of the original source material as highlights,
mm-hmm.
and it'll create individual headed notes. You can take that note heading and explode on that and get it down to the page and the location.
All right. And just out of curiosity, do you have an example of some text that you could share with us so we can explode on it and play with that a little bit?
Yeah, if you want to move on to somebody else, I'll bring that up.
Yeah. So while you're bringing that up, I'll demo real quick what I was working on last week, and show you that, and then we can. I think that's useful. So the challenge I was dealing with was this. All right. So here is a Tinderbox file I've got, and let's say I wanted to move one of my templates from one file to another. So I'll show you the other issue I have. And I've been dealing with so many different Tinderbox files. I've been dealing with different projects that I'm working on. And invariably what I was finding is I've been doing a lot of work on... here, I want to use this one. I've been doing a lot of work on creating templates and such, but then what I was being challenged with was, as I was moving templates back and forth between files, invariably the attributes that a template was relying on wouldn't be in the new Tinderbox file. And so then I'd have to go through and figure out which attribute's missing, which attribute do I need to create. And then I have to remember, well, what was the data type of that attribute? Was it a string? Was it a date? Was it a bullet point? And I was really struggling with that. And so yesterday, I was playing around with some action code and such. And let me show you what I built here. So let's say you have a template like my advanced template I use for creating bullets. That's what we were sharing last week. What I did was I started standardizing on commenting my code. So this is what this template's for, because what I've started to realize is, even if, talk about, Dave is talking about trying to help somebody 3-4 years down the road remember what the author of that code was doing. I'm lucky if I can remember for myself 3 days later, let alone, forget about some other human being. This is just about, can I remember what I was doing in the moment when I was doing that? So I'm starting to get better at trying to tackle that. Plus, what you'll see here is the attributes that this template is using, and you'll see. So, is show no title is an attribute it's using, and that's a boolean. The name is a string, the ID number is a number, etc., etc. And initially, I was trying to do this manually, and I quit because I just got tired of doing things manually. And then what we realize here is you've got this. So I went ahead and put it, made up a delimiter that I would put between between those contexts. And I'll go ahead and delete these notes and show you what's going to happen. It's pretty neat. So I've got this delimiter here, and if I trigger off my isUpdate attribute comment function, go like this, Tinderbox automatically interrogates all of the attributes that are being used in this template. It then goes out and looks up what is the type of that attribute and populates my notes. So that way I've now got automatically commenting of what's happening with my attributes in my file. The next thing I can do is, let's say then I'm editing that file and I create a new attribute, and we'll call that one book. And if I then go up and update it, you'll see here, and let me do another one. Let's just, for fun, we'll call this one Chuck. Right? I'll create an attribute called Chuck. And I'll go ahead and update my comments, and you'll see that I have Tinderbox automatically saying, well, wait a minute, I found two attributes in your template, but they're not in the Tinderbox file. So I'm going to warn you by populating the attribute missing value. And so then I can go and say, okay, that's really interesting. So then I could go ahead up here and say, well, you know what? I want the book attribute to be a number. And let's say I just get that one right. So then I can come up here, and you'll see here, actually I want to do the Chuck one just for fun, because we know for sure there's no Chuck attribute in my Tinderbox file. So here's the Chuck attribute, and I can say, let's say Chuck attribute is a Boolean. Right? So is this yes or no Chuck? And then if I trigger another function I have running, is create missing attribute, and just so you can show this, this is a real file with, you'll notice that there is no attribute Chuck in here. Right? So if I now go ahead and trigger the isChuck attribute, you'll see that that was true and then very quickly turned off to false. And then if I then pull my user attributes now, you will see I now have an attribute named Chuck, which happens to be a Boolean. And if you look here, and you'll now see too, my error messages got updated that says, you're still missing book, and book is missing its type. So now what I can do, based on that experience, I can quickly copy the template, say, over to another file. And I don't want to mess up this one, so I'll show you. This is part of my cooking show example here. I'll make a copy of this file here. So I've got a copy of this file. And now I got to go and move this fairly intricate template over into this file. And I say, and you'll notice here, just so we can show the whole demo, you'll notice here, all of these attributes that are here don't exist. All of these attributes that are in here don't exist in this file. So now, if I run the create missing attribute file, now we look, this one has all of those new attributes that didn't exist before, and they're all properly typed. So now I made a method so I can easily move templates back and forth between files and have them automatically do that. And that function works well for to be both commenting and creating attributes for action code as well, and for so stamps and functions as well. But one thing I've realized, and this is where I was, the question I had for Win earlier was, how do we do regex within regex? Part of the issue I found is if I'm applying this method, my functions, to the actual functions or stamps, the pattern matches actually match the pattern in the code, and so therefore I end up getting stuff overwritten, which is something I'll deal with later. But I think that's a really interesting little affordance that I've developed. And it only took, really, it's just 2 stamps to make that happen. And here's the example of the pattern matching. So essentially I'm asking Tinderbox to go in and find the delimiters that I created. These delimiters could be anything you want. And then match that pattern and then replace the commenting. And that's how that worked. So that's a great example of both the benefit of commenting, the benefit of automation, the benefit of documentation, not just for some other human being in the future, but the Michael Becker 20 minutes later after he wrote something and doesn't remember what he was doing.
So Michael, I got a couple of questions for you. If you
Yeah, please.
Very nice, by the way. I've played around with some similar things and trying to document attributes. Have you found a way to not just pull the existing descriptions for attributes, because you put the descriptions in the your Tinderbox document for each attribute, but have you found a way to update those descriptions? So then when you bring the attribute over to a new document, you also update any descriptions that are associated with that back in the Tinderbox document level, as opposed to just the imports, raw import.
Well, to be honest, what I'm right now, for me right now, I'm just focused on type. I'm not focused on description. But that would be, now that I've got the general process working, that would be fairly trivial. Because, in this example here, where you can see I'm grabbing, basically what I'm building is a database on a dictionary on the fly.
Sure.
So it's the name of the note, which is the key, the type of the note, which is a value, and then I could have another one that could be description, and the description could go there. And so and if you wanted to, and so that way, when that ported over, you could have and in Tinderbox language, when you're working with the dictionary, the first entry is 0. The second entry is 1, and the third entry is 2, etc., up to 9. So you can basically park up to 10 different points within that string. And so dictionary could be point number 3 within the list, and so therefore you grab that and then populate dictionary. So that would be pretty trivial to do, actually.
Well, I mean that's why I was asking the question, because the problem we'd run into previously was the semantic collision with colons and lists.
Yeah,
and
semicolons,
and that really, complicates trying to deal with the Tinderbox built-in operator that gets you the attributes.
Yeah, so in those situations, what I do is I'll often, because Tinderbox, for a colon for Tinderbox is a unique and special thing for dictionaries and lists.
Right.
And so I'll make up my own delimiter. So often.
Okay, so you're using new delimiters.
Yeah. So in this in this situation, I got the colon to work, but sometimes I would just do either like three asterisks, or what I might do is like I did in this case, and an asterisk percentage asterisk. So what you want to do is basically make up a delimiter that will be unique and not going to get won't necessarily be random in nature. So that way, then first item, something you've made up, second item, and then you could say, and so then all of the unique elements are split up by those delimiters, and then you can use RegEx to parse them out.
Yeah.
So we happily do that demo, but we can.
And then the other thing was the other problem that we had previously when we were trying to deal with this is dealing with the default settings and the what is the term that Tinderbox uses, where you can have the predefined values, so you get a pull down list for an attribute when you go to update its value.
Say that again.
I'm just trying to remember what Tinderbox calls that right now. When you go to your attributes list, and the inspector for attributes.
Yep. Oh, let's just okay. So we go here.
Yeah, and there's the default value. Suggested was the term I was trying to use.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found a way to repopulate suggested when you move an attribute from one document to another?
Well, again, I think it'd be the same. So every one of these can be written with action code.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like I'm writing type, I would write default, suggested, or description.
Okay.
I personally haven't done it because
I think there's still a problem there because of you know, now you've got to use the colons to fit with the way the Tinderbox does things, and that causes other problems interpreting.
Well, and again, the way you do that, if
fixed
in
or
your
not.
description you have text, say semicolon, something like that. Let's say your description had that kind of language. What you would do is before you'd export that out, you would replace that, say, semicolon with some yet other pattern that you would then temporarily put in there, so then it wouldn't get hung up. And that's just going to be some experimentation, but the populating is certainly doable. And it did take me a bit. It took me about a day, I would say, to figure out this commenting methodology. But the great thing about having done it now is it's done, and I don't need to do it again, ever, hopefully. And it just ensures that I have consistency, repeatability, to be able to move my templates around to other files and not really worry about it anymore. Because I was wasting so much time debugging a template because that one attribute was missing. And I couldn't figure out why my templates weren't rendering, and that's now been solved.
Yeah. Any chance you can share that?
That's part of my Patreon group. Some of this, because it's actually commercial source codey work, I actually am pulling that into my Patreon efforts.
Okay.
So yeah, let's follow up with that offline.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Dan, were you able to find a Kindle?
Oh yes.
You want to pop something in chat? You want to email it to me?
Or share screen, would that work?
Or share screen, and we'll just walk you through doing it. That's always better because you can actually press the keys and get some muscle memory while we're at it.
All right, here we go. It says I can't do it while Michael has control of the world.
I will stop having control of the world. Let's.
Please send $10. Oh.
All right, I have relinquished control of the world.
Here we go. Are you able to see my screen?
We are.
All right. So starting at Kindle, this is Tiago's book. I went through and took highlights all the way through it. It generates
Alexa,
these
stop.
notes and highlights on the fly. I exported those, and when I exported those,
Alexa, stop.
It enables me to create an HTML output from that. I grabbed, let's say chapter 2 or chapter 8 or whatever, and brought those over into Tinderbox. So here's chapter 8's notes, and you see how it's got this funky preface before every note.
Yeah.
What I was doing is in other languages such as Java, that all I would need to do is give it a greedy period or a dot character with a percent or with a plus or a asterisk behind it, and it would grab everything up into the greater than character.
Mm-hmm.
Tinderbox, because it's using that Perl ish RegEx engine, the only way I could get this to work was by having to create this incredibly ugly regex that you all are going to probably show me how to replace with 2 characters.
Or not.
So when I explode these notes, I can see, yep, there's 9, just like I want, and it strips off everything that I want. Then I can remove that title from the text, and the outcome is exactly what I wanted.
Yep.
But there's got to be an easier way. I had to, depending on the chapter headings, if it had a double dash, which I don't know what ASCII character that was, but I had to create a different one for that. Mm-hmm. And then, so you can see there's just some ugliness here. And I'm wondering if what you were showing at the very beginning, if the dot replace wouldn't be an easier way to do it. But.
Well, I mean, easier is relative, and it also depends on like how often you're going to be doing this, and you know, and are patterns consistent, etc. So if you can go up to your original note, the chapter 8. One of the nice things too with Tinderbox 2 is you can run multiple explodes.
Exactly.
And until you get it right, and
Right.
you can keep and then ultimately once you finally got it right, you can do it. So there's a couple ways that you could also do this. You could first explode all the notes, say at the word highlight or just before the word highlight, and then triage each of the individual notes individually. So that way, then instead of having that long nasty regex, you explode them first at their individual note level, and then you have another regex that then does the next layer of analysis for you. And frankly, what I would also consider doing is, yeah, so maybe you explode at highlight, or better yet, I would explode at the caret. So do like the capital and then go all the way up to the caret sign, the right arrow. You don't even need the word highlight because that should work.
Oh, just this?
Yeah. But you start from the beginning of the line. So do the number 6, the little caret thing. Right? So that gets you I would get you all the way to the that numbered line. And let's just experiment, see what happens. Hit explode.
See how it says 1 of 1 notes? What it does is it explodes that whole document into just one string.
Got it. Okay. So then the other way I would do this is watch this. Okay, while we're doing this, go ahead and
If you want to take control, I'm all in favor of you taking control.
Yeah, but it helps you with muscle memory too if you do it yourself. So why don't you go ahead and hit Command 1 to open up the inspector. Okay, and go ahead and click on the little number 4, I think or is it documents? Where are stamps? The little white box. Yeah, stamps. Click on stamp. So click plus, create yourself a new stamp. All right. So in that one, why don't you say you know, replace highlight? Okay. So now what you're going to do is the first step is you want to start triaging your content and kind of incrementally break things into their pieces as you look to curate this process. So I would say in this case I would say $text equals $text dot replace parenthesis. Now here's where and then once you put the close parenthesis, put a comma, and then in between put a comma. So just so we'll step through the process. So everything to the left of the comma is the pattern you're looking for. To the right of the comma is what you want to replace that pattern with.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And I say that just for anybody that happens to be watching this video, they'll understand what's going on. And that's also a really nice way to write your code. So if you actually set up your code that way first, you go, okay, here's the syntax I need. Now go back and fill in the blanks. Because if you don't do that, sometimes you'll forget a parenthesis at the end and you'll have no idea why it's not working. And then it'll go. Now remember, so on that note too, you can run multiple action code strings simultaneously. So put a semicolon at the end of the line. So that is a complete Tinderbox statement. Make whatever's on the right side of the equal sign, apply the result of that value to the left side of the equal sign. So essentially what we're telling Tinderbox in this case is, look at the text, replace whatever I'm going to put into this pattern with what I'm going to put in with what I'm telling it to replace it with, and then change the text. The other thing I would typically do in this situation too is, especially if I'm experimenting, I'd copy note 8 first. So I have why don't you go ahead and do that just really quick. Take chapter number 8. No, leave your text there. Go ahead and click chapter number 8 and just do a copy paste real quick.
You do a CV, does that work?
Yeah. So collect chapter 8. Yeah, click chapter 8. Yeah.
So where did it?
No. I don't think you did it. Click on Chapter 8.
Okay.
No. Click on Chapter 8. There you go. So it's highlighted. Okay. Now hit copy paste. You don't need to right mouse click. Copy paste.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. And then you might want to just say, rename it, call it copy or something like that. Because Tinderbox allows you to have notes with multiple names. So that way you've got your source information. So now you can go play with abandon without having to worry about your source.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
So go back to Chapter 8. Click on your original or play with your copy. That's fine. Okay. Now let's think about our pattern. And what I've learned to do is break my rendering, if you will, into steps. Because what we can do is you break it down into the steps of what you're ultimately want to doing, and then once you have each of those steps, you then can make your universal, one ring rules them all regex. But at least each incremental step works, and then invariably you can then figure out where you want to go with that. So in this case, and the other thing I might do too is, do you have BBedit?
That's on my list of things to do today.
I
tried to stay with Visual Studio Code, and the plugins that they have for regex just don't match up to the quality of what you and Mark were showing.
Right. So have you downloaded BBedit yet? Because
no.
Can you really quick? Might as well, because I can show you. Just get the trial, and we'll walk you through this, because this is a great example of get the right tool for the right job. Just do the download free trial.
This one here?
Yeah, or it says free download on the right too, but that's fine.
There we go. I spent a lot of time in the principal's office as a child, so anytime I get in front of a board of august people such as yourselves, I'm thinking I'm either about to be suspended or get hacked.
Imposter syndrome, it's the best.
I get nervous.
Michael, quick question while he's downloading. Would it be possible to use and maybe I missed when you were talking about this earlier, the highlight yellow string as the delimiter?
You could. The problem with that is that highlight is, that yellow is embedded in the RTF. And that's, so that's an example of structure and appearance being embedded in the code, and it's super annoying. And so, I find you can, but I find, I would rather look for the word yellow than I would look for the color yellow, because that's easier to delimitate against. And so this is a great example of using the right tool for the right job. You could experiment in the dark with what regex works with what in Tinderbox. Or you pop over to BBedit, get your regex right, and then go back to Tinderbox. That's what I find the most effective. So go back to Tinderbox real quick. No. Go back to Tinderbox real quick.
This regex 101 is kind of what we use as a de facto standard when we're not using.
Yeah, that's a really good one. But I want you to go back to BBedit real quick.
It doesn't. It lies.
I'm sorry. Say that again. What does it do?
Regex. It doesn't have a Perl engine filter.
Got it.
So you can use the ECMA, which is what supposedly matches with Perl, but it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was going to BBedit today.
Right. So exactly why. So go back to your Tinderbox and grab like the first 2 or 3 of those. You don't need the whole document. Or even just one. One's fine, but go ahead and grab one. All right. Now paste that in there. Now, if you go up to File, I think it's Setting. Go up to Preferences, maybe under BBedit. Click Preferences. And somewhere you should be able to wrap your text. Where's the View Wrap Text? I got to remember that. Let me do a quick search. I'll see Google.
Soft wrap?
Yeah, that's it. Okay, and then go.
Do you set a character width?
You can if you want, but soft wrap's fine.
Okay.
I'm not sure why that didn't work though. Okay, but for our sake, this is fine. So now go ahead. I think you might need to close it and open it again. Go ahead and you don't need to save it right now.
Okay.
because you can paste it back. Close BBedit, now reopen BBedit back up. And now paste in your, there you go. All right, so we got the soft wrap. So there's your text.
Okay.
Okay. Now here's the illustrious Mark Anderson taught me this. So if you go under File, go to New, and scroll down, you see the word Playground? Pattern Playground. Okay. Here's your RegEx pattern matching playground in BBedit.
Oh, cool. And it grabs in.
Right. Now watch what happens. So up in the pattern, why don't you do the caret, and then do that little right arrow. Okay, and you'll see nothing's matching there. Or type the word highlight, see what happens. Right? So you see now it's matching the words highlight.
Oh, that is awesome.
Right? So now you can use the playground to experiment with what your RegEx is going to be. And if on the top right, you see the little word G? Or excuse me, on the top, yeah. So go to the far right, the little one, the third one over. Right? That actually gives you a little cheat sheet on different RegEx codes.
I am just, you guys are awesome.
Right? And if you go over to the left to that one, okay, that's your history, and you go to the net, and that one lets you save your RegEx. So when you actually get one that works, you can actually save your own library of RegEx in BBedit. So what I do is I'll play around in BBedit to get a RegEx that works for me, and then I'll copy it over to Tinderbox.
That is awesome.
So let's go ahead and figure out why that's not working. All right, so why don't you go backwards? Yeah, so there you go. So let's explain what we just did. So for those people that aren't in lingo of RegEx, and again, I'm a total, talk about poser. I couldn't even spell the word or say the word RegEx 12 months ago. So I am a complete poser when it comes to RegEx. So, but think about what he just did here. So the little caret, and if you don't mind, can you click on the third drop down again? Okay. So this is a little cheat sheet that helps you understand RegEx. So if you can scroll down to the middle where you see the first little hat. Okay. So let's give a bit of a history lesson for everyone. Back in the 50s, when computers were first being invented, and maybe someone can find it on Wikipedia real quick and grab us the person's name just for history's sake. Some guy in the 50s, it could have been a gal, but I think it was a man, invented RegEx. And he basically said, we want to build a pattern matching syntax for text. And that's what RegEx is. And that's become fundamentally, this pattern matching syntax has fundamentally been a core to computing systems ever since. And so all of these different special character flags are the way to signal to the computer what pattern you want to match. That's really all this is. And so if you see the little hat, what this says is must match or occur at the beginning of the line. So if you put the little hat, that says I'm looking for the pattern needs to start at the beginning of the line, and then we'll go through and find it. If you look at the dot, what he's saying is, so I want you to start your pattern match at the beginning of the line, then the dot says find anything. And then the asterisk says, and repeat that find any character as many times as you want, and then up to the little caret. So essentially what this RegEx is saying is start at the beginning of the line, find any and all characters, no matter what they are, and then stop at the caret.
Yep.
Right? That's what that RegEx is saying. Okay. Now let's do something else interesting with this in mind. Now why don't you put a parentheses around that whole string?
Get the capture group.
Right? So in RegEx lingo now, and again, let's just look at the syntax here. And again, Bruce Gale, Bruce, if you don't mind, you found that dude that does RegEx for Excel, and he's awesome. So there's also ability to do RegEx for Excel, and he's got like a $50 course that's worth every single penny. And this is one of the things that I really like.
Just to make sure we're talking about the same person, I'll put it in chat. It's Google Sheets, not Excel.
Or Google Sheet, but it works in Excel too. So, but the
Okay,
point,
sure.
but this is the
Yeah,
beautiful
I'll
thing.
put his
There are
information. He's excellent.
there are different flavors of regex, just like there are different languages. But in general, it's like regex is like Latin, right? French, all of our Romance languages are built on off the fundamentals of Latin. So your regex may not work based on different regex engines, but in general, the commonality of the languages are such that you'll get about 90% there, and you'll be able to order your beer and get to the bathroom pretty consistently, no matter which country of regex you're going to visit. There might be some nuance that you might get the flavored beer you don't like, but that's what you'll play with as you experiment with this. So some of the fundamental things here then is, so we initially captured that highlight group, but then and why don't you take the parentheses away real quick if you don't mind. So if you see here, and remember earlier we talked about this idea called back referencing. So what back referencing basically says is, go find me this thing, and you'll see the back reference is 0. Right under it says capture groups. We've now captured the first thing, and it's parked it in this memory state called capture group 0, which is also referred to as a back reference. And so now if you put parentheses around that, what we're now saying is, now I'm saying I specifically want you to capture this in a group called capture group 1. So that's going to save that into your memory. So you now can, that's it, Ben Collins. I really like his style too. He's awesome. So we've captured that group. So go ahead and leave that there. So essentially what we're now telling Tinderbox, or telling the regex engine to do, is go through and interrogate each line of my text, or looking for this pattern, and capture that into group 1. So let's go ahead and just experiment for that right now. Go ahead and copy that regex.
Including the capture group?
Yep. Pop over to Tinderbox. And let me show you an example real quick, if you don't mind. No, stop there. Scroll down to your prototypes.
Okay.
Why don't you create a new prototype, and we'll call it P note. A little, no. Go back. Let's go back to your outline view. Hit Shift Option Enter.
Shift Option Enter.
Okay, so you've selected the note prototype. Shift Option Enter creates a child underneath a group.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, and so now go ahead, call it P note. Okay, and why don't you, just for the sake of fun, go ahead and add my string there, just for the hell of it for now. You'll want to create up your own attributes later if you want, but this, just for the sake of this method, we'll just play with this now. Okay. And you might also want to have like page number, source, citation. So I actually do this for me. Go ahead and do citation key. Okay. All right, and then so later when you're what you want to be doing is you want to actually have a citation key to, because like, think about this way too. You want to eventually move this note from this Tinderbox file into another one. And so you want to be maintaining the provenance of where did you get that.
Right.
So you maintain, so keep a citation key. This is Tiago. This is on page 166. All that. So now you've got that. Yeah. But again, you're think about this too, though. You're saying from Kindle. Do you really care that it was from a Kindle, or do you care that it was just from his book? So you might also be wanting to think about you're genericizing your attributes, because as you move from different project to project, you really just care about the fact that it's book, not necessarily that it was the Kindle version. But that's stuff we can play with later. Okay, click away. And then it's going to ask you to create that, and you can make it a string, a set, or anything like that. It doesn't matter. All right, click away. So we'll come back to that later. But just so you know, we've created now a P note.
Right.
Now let's go back to your chapter 8. Okay, and click on one of your on that note. So we're going to play with that replace. Now watch what's going to happen here. I'm going to modify your text a little bit. Okay, we've got multiple copies of this, which is good. So let's go ahead and paste your okay, so that's your regex, and let's remember what we asked ourselves to do. start at the beginning of the line, go up to the first right caret, and then what do we want to replace that with?
Nothing.
Okay, so go ahead and hit apply. Okay, now
okay.
Now what you can do is, so you saw that you got that through that big line. Now what you can also do is you could run. So and this is what I like to do. So you'll go ahead, go back up to your main chapter 8 note. Okay, explode all of that. Just hit explode. Make it easier for you. Don't do any delimiter. Just delimitate at the word highlight.
Why can't I spell?
All right, and then uncheck the remove title from there. All right, so just hit explode. Okay. So now you go look at your exploded notes, and so now you have each of those individual notes there, and you actually, it looks like you did remove it, which is fine because it doesn't matter. We got the same regex. Now select every one of those notes and hit apply. Right. So now you're essentially you're breaking your steps up into different elements.
Very cool.
Okay. Now let's do something a little different. Okay. Go ahead and hit plus on your stamp. Go back to your inspector.
It just it replaced the text, not the title. Okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go back to your inspector, because if you look at your explode, go back to your explode. Let's do that again, just so you can see what's happening. Go back to your explode, and break it delimiter. Oh, okay, uncheck delete delimiter. Now do it again.
Okay. Okay.
No, but explode at chapter 8. Yeah.
Yep.
No. Click chapter 8.
Yep, I was getting rid of that.
Yeah, but don't delete them because we want to keep the history so we can go back and see the differences.
Oh, okie dokie.
No, you applied the stamp. What you wanted you to do explode.
Yeah, there we go. Can I undo? No. Okay, there we go. And then we want to do the explode. And we don't want to delete the delimiter. We want to break a highlight. Am I following?
Yeah, you're right. Hit explode.
All right.
Okay. So now you see. Look at your next note. I don't know why you're deleting your delimiter still. The word highlight should still be there.
Yeah, that was some of the craziness I ran into with this Kindle Note.
Yeah, no, but that's a Tinderbox thing. That's not Kindle Note. Go back to your. Let's work on your copy too, not your normal one.
Okay.
Okay. Go back. Let's fix the highlight that you deleted out of there. Just go back and get that again. No, you did it in both. So just copy the second one up to the caret and replace it back. There you go. So we have a clean file again. Now hit paste. There you go. And a space. Perfect. All right. So we're back to a clean file. Go ahead and explode. Oh, yeah, just doing both.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now go ahead and explode that again. And break it delimiter. Don't delete that. Don't remove text. All right, now go ahead and hit explode. There you go. All right, so there you have. Now you have your clean notes, and if you wanted to, you could go ahead and apply that stamp that we created to every one of those. All right, hit apply, and then so now you've got your title of your note, but all of that's out of the delimiter. Now let's play with something else. Let's try this. Hit the plus on your stamps. Okay, go copy the stamp from before. No, click up the one above. Copy the text in the action.
Okay.
Click there, hit paste. All right, now on this one, say text equals.
Text equals, okay.
Okay, and then say if No. If.
So where do you want me to do the if?
Text equals if.
Oh, after this semicolon?
No. Text equals if. Go back to the beginning of the line. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Parenthesis. Okay. All right, and then after the change the replace to .I contains. Okay.
And that's ignore casing.
Yeah, it's ignore case exactly. And then delete the after the quote and the comma. No, leave that. Leave that. After the quote, delete the comma, delete that. All the way up to the last parenthesis.
Okay.
Okay. No, you need one more parenthesis. Okay. Now, after the last parenthesis, put a open curly bracket.
That's your if?
No, after the last parenthesis.
Oh, after. Okay.
Okay. And then say my string equals $0 or $1, I think. Let's see. We'll have to experiment.
Is that would be your okay.
I'll explain in a second. And then hit the close curly bracket. Okay. So what you're doing here now, if you remember in the RegEx, we did a capture group. And that was the parentheses that we were showing earlier. And so what we're in this context, and the one thing I don't like about the first method that we did was we're losing data unnecessarily, right? We deleted, with the first RegEx, we deleted the word highlight, and therefore we lost that fact that it was a yellow highlight versus a red highlight. We lost the fact that it was a book from Diageo. So there was a bunch of data there that we threw away unnecessarily. And we may want to render that differently in the future. So if you're seeing here, what we've just done is let me explain what we're telling Tinderbox to do. What we're asking Tinderbox to do in this context is we're saying, hey, Tinderbox, I want you to change the text. And what I want you to do is if the text equals .I contains, whatever meets that pattern, stick that into a back reference, $1, and then make the value of my string equal to $1. So go ahead and click on one of the highlight notes. First redo the explode. I'm sorry, you got to redo the explode because we deleted highlight. So go up to chapter 8, redo the explode, but this time stop. In the action, say $prototype equals P note. Okay, hit explode.
Do you want that as an equivalence or a
no?
sign?
So okay, no. So here's the not in as one.
Yeah.
Michael, can you say what that does?
Yeah. So what this is, I was just about to explain it. Thanks for asking, Bruce. So remember, put the second equals back in, just real quick, just show what happens. So in Tinderbox parlance, the equal signs are really important. A double equals is an equivalence. It's a test. It's used in queries, not actions. And it's saying, does the prototype of this note equal P note? Delete that, the second. Now what you're saying is, make the value of prototype equal to P note. So we're assigning whatever on the right of the equal sign to the attribute of the new note prototype. So what this action is saying is explode the notes, and when you create that new note, make its prototype P note. That's what you're saying. So go ahead and hit explode. Okay, now go down. All right, now do me a favor, go down to your prototypes real quick. And click on P note, and click on the little plus sign right to the left of the note name. And click on, oops.
Oh.
No, because you just moved it away, yeah.
Okay.
Click on symbol. Just move the inspector out of the way. Hit a command 1.
Yeah.
You get good with do Command 1. You can open and close the inspector real quick. Click on symbols, and then pick a little icon that means a note to you. Personally, I like the one next to the stopper on the bottom left with the little pencil.
This one?
No. That one.
That one?
That's a
Okay.
note. Okay, double click on that. There you go. Now look at every one of your highlights. They're all now have adopted the prototype P note.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. Now go ahead and hit Command 1 again. And now apply the stamp that you just created to that note.
Just to that one? Okay.
Okay, so it was going to be, oops, what did we do wrong? So we deleted all the text. That's why we test. If text.I contains... Oh. All right, let me grab it on my end and see if I can do it real quick. Go ahead and hit the next note. I'm gonna play with it on my end real quick here. So essentially what we're doing is we're capturing text and dropping it into, make it $0. Let's see what happens real quick. I'm gonna reproduce it on my end really quick.
Well.
No worries, no worries. We'll figure it out. I'm just reproducing it on my end.
Did it format it white on white background? Is that what it did?
It could have, but I don't think so.
Michael, don't you want to be doing this with name?
You could do it with name, but it's also in the text.
Is that what you're searching for on these exploded notes?
Yeah, go click on that. No, because the text actually has the notes. Let me go do the. You could do it in name too, but let me do the. Okay. I gotta find what I. Let me copy this stamp we just wrote here, so I don't have to reproduce it. And we'll go here. So if we can share screen, I can show you my experimentation real quick if I can take over sharing the screen.
Yep.
And we'll do this. By the way, Tom, are you still with us?
I am.
So can you do me a favor and drop in the Text Sniper app that you just put in? Tom has shared with me this new app called Text Sniper that is just wickedly cool. And I was able to, in the few seconds that we were doing that, snipe some of your text.
Whoa!
And get the action code too.
I'm loving this.
Right? So let's see what we did wrong. We'll do a test note. We'll create a few versions of that so we can mess around. And let me see why I did that. And I'll create my prototype for you. Let's grab P-person.
The action has been messed up, if you'll notice.
Yeah, I'll fix that in just a second. I'm just going to outline, trying to reproduce our environment. All right, and we'll add my string. And we'll see what I'm doing wrong here. Okay, so we got a sample note. We'll go here, text equals if text equals .I contains that pattern, then make my string equal to $0. So let's test it. It should have worked. So
you got to change the curly braces.
Yeah. So Text Sniper, the resolution wasn't as great for Text Sniper to grab it all, but we got as much as we could. All right. And so let's go ahead and apply that there. Hit apply, so it deletes all our notes. Shouldn't be doing that. Let's do it for the next one. Does it again. So what the hell? We could try name. we'll put that up as name and see what happens. So if text.iContains, oh, here, we can also do this. I know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, that's why you do it in the environment. I'm such a moron. So remember, the call is if text equals this, then do that. So I would say text equals, and I was giving it a command. So essentially, Tinderbox was doing exactly what we asked it to do. If you go back and think about what I was doing, I had this. Text equals this. Well, this is resolving to nothing. So Tinderbox is making text equal to nothing.
Right.
Right? So that's where my error was. So now what I'm doing is I'm saying if text equals .I contains this pattern, then make my string equal to 1. So we'll go ahead and do that. And it's 0 because that should work now. And if I click away, why is that not working? If text.I contains this pattern, make my string equal to $1. Should work. I have to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Maybe my pattern's off. And then that's when we pull up BBedit. And this is basically what I was going through yesterday to figure out the replacing the comments. So
what I ran into, Mr. Michael, is in RegEx 101, it's perfectly fine. BBedit, it's perfectly fine. But when I tried to run it in Tinderbox, something in that string.
Yep, this is pretty straightforward though, so it should work. So okay, so look, so something's going wrong with the pattern. So if you look, this is why it's not working for me, is the text that I pasted. I must have some special characters in the text when I pasted it over.
Oh.
All right, so select all, get rid of all the special characters, make sure this is, see, I've got a line break there. So that's why the pattern wasn't working for me, because I wasn't matching anything, so my string was becoming 0. So if we've done this, so my line breaks are gone now. So let's see if that works now. So I've got pure text, line breaks are gone. My pattern now should match. And so now if I copy this back into BBedit, let's just make sure my patterns still match. You'll see now my pattern matches.
That is awesome.
Right? And I'm getting another break here. I've got another character right there that I accidentally stuck in. And go like that, just to make sure. All right, now my pattern matches. So now we can come back to Tinderbox and try our stamp again. All right, so you'll see what I've now done is I had Tinderbox grab that text out of the pattern and then do this. And then we could experiment further. I could say something like this. I could say, we do it, and this is where you now can combine methods. So I do this, and then I can say text equals text dot replace. All right, grab my pattern. So now what I want to do, and we'll do it on the final note, we'll say, hey, Tinderbox, I want you to go grab that text out of the note so I can maintain access to the data, stick it in my string for now, I'll render that later, and then I want you to go back into the text and delete that pattern. Right? So if we do that, oh, and we got to clean up the I got to clean up the pattern of the note again. Right? So now if we do that, I've got clean pattern, I've got clean text. And now I go ahead and apply that. Pull this up so you all see it. So now I've both saved the text that I can then render later to grab page number and its coloring of highlights, the name of the chapter. and I've deleted it out of the text. So that's the methodology that you can use to be importing and then triaging and curating content. And on that note, we're about 2 minutes over. But I thought this was a pretty fun exercise today.
It was for me. I'm sure hoping it was for everybody else.
And again, I'm by no means a RegEx expert. This has all been stumbling around, massive imposter syndrome stuff going on for me with this. But this is to the extent that I've learned it.
Well, the wisdom that's on this call just humbles me. Thank you.
My pleasure. So
I can't imagine the universe of wisdom that is in this body of people.
It's a pretty cool group. That's why I keep coming back every weekend.
Michael?
Yeah?
Just as a comment, because Dan was having some troubles with inconsistencies of RegEx between different debugging tools and things like that. I've used BBedit a lot, but I have encountered some of the problems with inconsistencies between the variant of RegEx that BBedit uses versus what is, I guess, now Apple's version of RegEx that Tinderbox currently uses.
Oh.
And I have found that the DebuggerEx.com website not only has a very nice graphical illustration of how your RegEx looks and what's going on, but it also gives you the ability to select different variants of RegEx to work with.
Love fancy new tools. So let's try that, and then we'll leave. All right, so we've got some content.
There's another site like that I put a link in for RegEx 101.
Right.
Yeah, that's where we started with, and I ran into troubles with its ECMA script is supposed to be equivalents of Perl script, whatever flavor that it's in Mark Anderson's TB forum where he says use this site.
So
how do I use this
with Perl compatible regular expressions is that the only real definition of that is what Perl actually does, because it's extended the regular expression syntax so much that there's no real specification for it.
Oh.
It's just the implementation.
Got it.
And it's not very regular at all.
No.
So where do I pick?
So when people talk about Perl compatible, it's in the ballpark for what they sort of think it means, and it's a real mess.
So Chuck, where do I paste in my code, my text?
In the first box.
I can't.
No, below that.
Here?
Below where it says PCRE. That's where you put your regex.
Okay, and then where would I type? Where would I type my regex?
That's where you.
That's where I put my regex. But where do I put my text that I want it to pattern batch?
Let's see. It's been a couple of weeks since I've used this.
Maybe up here? No. Huh. Okay. Well, we'll play with it later.
I'm blanking myself right now. Like I said, I've been tied up with other projects. I haven't been fooling around with this stuff for quite a while.
All right.
I just, if you just open up the page initially, it gives you a graphical view of what you're doing and shows how the various functions are looping back on themselves. And that can also be helpful when you encounter a situation where you have a regex that kinds of, explodes on you. That's generally because you wound up creating a loop of some sort.
Yeah.
And this helps you find those kinds of problems.
Yeah. Awesome.
So it gives you a graphical illustration of what's going on and how you bypass, one regex, and it just, creates a graphical view that not only do I find it useful, but then I can go and change it to JavaScript or PCRE or some of the other variants, and just throw that out as a reference because it's useful. It also has very nice cheat sheets, and the cheat sheets are, again, dependent upon what you have selected as the variant of regex you're working with.
No, that's awesome. I just want to know how we paste in code. I guess maybe you need to be logged in, maybe.
I don't think so.
Huh. All right.
That word beta at the end might be the reason is when you used it last, maybe there was something different.
So, by the way,
Might
the Text Sniper app, let me just show you. I'll hotkey it, and I can grab that text right off of a web page, and I can turn around and open up my Tinderbox file again, and then just immediately paste in what I just copied. So
Wow.
it's really good. I kind of...
I'm curious, Michael.
Yeah.
That's a quicker workflow than using Snagit. Do you find any difference in the accuracy?
Yeah, well, on text, no. For text capturing, it's so rock solid. It's silly.
No, I'm saying because Snagit also does that.
Yeah, Snagit has a grab it, but the problem with Snagit with grab it or Snagit, you've got to save the image, then go to Snagit, then do a grab. Whereas this, I can just be looking at a web page or a PDF file and grab text, and it will actually grab it out of images as well.
I'm pretty sure you don't have to do that. You can set under preferences to have it store in the clipboard, and then you can just paste it the way you did now.
Got it. I'll check it out. I find Sniper really good. I haven't used simple grab it like that before with Snagit.
Michael, the first box below the PCRE is where you put your regex. The box below that is where you put the text you want, and it will then show you where the matches are with highlighting the same way that BBedit does.
Got it. So let's do that. So if I pop in my, but that's the oh, I see. So okay, that's what they're calling results. Got it. And then if I copy that, yeah, that's
throwing me for a minute or two.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
There. So, and you can see, the logic is a little bit easier to follow.
Yeah. So get the hat.
But the real reason I started using this is just because I was running into variant problems with regex, and so this just made it a little bit easier to see what does the regex do if it's JavaScript, what does the regex do if it's the industry standard PCRE, so things like that.
By the way, here's another fun regex we can do too. Now that we're doing this, let's say if we wanted to do this, and we say grab me 0 to 9, grab me numbers, right? And what we can then do is we could actually grab page space. So now what I've just grabbed is, and then I can put the capture group like this. So now essentially what I've done is go grab any numbers following the word page. So now
put a first digit.
Put a plus in there.
Plus. Okay?
Now you got it.
So now if I go like this and I go back to my Tinderbox file and I go pnote and I add an attribute called page, and it's going to be a number, and then I go up to this and I create a new fancy little stamp, and I copy that stamp, put that there as a placeholder for now, go back here, copy this, go to here, go to here, grab my regex, replace that, hit enter, hit apply.
Oh, you wanted my string to be...
Yeah.
You want page.
I want
page in there as well.
So let's do it again. But this way, look, watch this. Make page equal to 1. And then we can do this again. And this is an example of combining ones, so we can combine all three later. Go like that. Put our new test. So now we're combining 3 independent regexes. I can go back to my original text, so I'll go like here, and I'll go back here, and I'll create a new note, test. So I've got a new clean set of code, and now I'm going to apply my stamp 2, which now if we take a step back and ask ourselves, what are we asking it to do? We're asking it to do 3 things now. What we want to do is we want you to go through and change the name, grab the page number, and then remove the text. So let's see if that happens.
You want to maybe make $1, $2 in the second one?
You could, but no, but it's not too, remember, they're both
right.
independent lines, so they're not,
I got it.
they're not two
you're right.
they're not two capture groups.
Right.
Can you change the stamped names instead of having hard code?
Sure. Yeah, all combined.
What I did was I created 3 separate stamps so that I wouldn't have a stamp that had the name do this and this and this.
Right. So watch this though too. Here's another really good one, and then we can do is this is grab highlight, this grab name. We'll talk name, and then this is all combined, and this was grab. We'll just go like this one is this one is the that's the grab name. So I'll do this sometimes too. So I'll grab the name. Here I'm going to be grabbing this one is just the page number. So this is now grab page number.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the process I follow.
And then this one was the grab, that was grab name again. Which one? Oh, I deleted the delete text. So let's do this one. I'll finish it up here, and then we'll end for the day. Text equals text dot replace. And then the action was at $, caret. I'm not mistaken. Okay, now we're going to create a for one, and so I'm going to combine all. Now watch this.
You're about to make me very happy.
See if we can actually get this to work. I might embarrass myself, but hopefully not. Okay, so we've got test 2 content. We apply my P-Note template. And now on the combine all one, we're going to say action text grab name. And we need 2 parentheses. Okay.
You need B, grab B.
Yeah. All right, and this is going to be grab page number. And this is going to be grab. This was grab. Oh, this was clear text. Remove. All right. So now what we're doing is we're saying, hey, Tinderbox, what I want you to do is, did I not spell the word action? Action. Okay. What I want you to do, Tinderbox, now is I want you to go and run these stamps for me. Perform the action of the action code that's embedded in the text of the note name, grab name of stamp. Now let's see if this actually works. And it didn't. This is where we do.
It doesn't like that first action for some reason.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, let's just do one at a time and see what happens. It should work. Okay, now I noticed this broke on me earlier, so maybe that should work, but maybe in the something's happened with the demo version that I'm using, that in-text actions aren't working. I'll double check on that. But that's another function that could work.
So that way you're not hard coding code into that stamp that's doing the combining.
Correct.
You are
so it just
separating
yeah. So an idea too is it's a whole idea of incremental formalization too. So you know each of the individual pieces work. So therefore, then when you combine them together, the whole thing should work.
These are days I'm glad I don't design nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Push this button. Let's see what happens.
But the scary thing is that software people do design weapons, and they make the same mistakes we make.
Yeah,
There is no way to avoid making mistakes in software.
Oh. Yeah, I just don't want to be the test dummy when they say, "Yeah, Dan, let's try this. Hold this shield and let's see if it works."
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, again, we ran a little bit over, but hopefully you all enjoyed today.
Yeah,
Well,
very useful.
I did.
It was nice.
I feel like I received a week's worth of Tinderbox training. Awesome.
You know, just the interesting comment. I don't know. You'll see my face go elsewhere at times because, you know, Dave has just recommended a book and Chuck has just pointed out an interesting website. And Tom has a new program that's going to cost me $120 a year. Oh. And what's kind of interesting is that in addition to following at least 10% of what's going on, I'm able to learn about all of these other interesting tools and then see how it integrates.
By the way, on that comment of you're going to cost me $120 a year, Text Sniper is available on SetApp. And I don't know if anybody, it's not a scam. Let me just be clear. And I don't know if anybody, for those that are finally here, I don't know if you are aware of this service called SetApp. And it is
I've heard of it.
It is freaking awesome. It's $9.99 a month, and you get access to all of these apps within the SetApp community for that flat rate of $9.99 a month. Text Sniper's right here. You'll get it for your $9.99 a month. I get Clean My Mac, Text Sniper, Bartender, Downy, Text Expander's in here too. So really? I probably get a few $100s worth of software for the $9.99 a month.
Text Expander, the new version, the subscription version?
I think so. I don't remember, but yeah. So
anyway, that's interesting.
So this, if you're looking for Mac utilities, all you need to use is like 3 or more of these apps, and it's like gazillion times paid for itself.
Humble bundles for apps.
I've started using Alfred and got rid of Text Expander.
Yeah, I like Alfred. It just confuses me. I have not yet been able to invest enough time in to learn it.
What's the? I see you all use a couple different text expanders, and one of them is really powerful.
Yeah, the one I use is actually called Text Expander.
Right, and then there's another one that people use for setting up document templates. I've seen.
That could be a session on its own.
Could be.
Maybe it'd have to be not on the Zoom. Who knows all the software that we use collectively?
Yeah.
And how we find it useful.
Yeah.
Well, David's going to collect all that information for us and share it around, right?
I thought that actually SetApp had recently dropped Text Expander. Could be wrong.
Okay. So by the way, too, and while we're just wrapping up, let me show you this one last thing. Just coincidentally for RegEx. So this is like what I learned yesterday when I was doing my how to build a template. And essentially what my note's saying here is, hey, Tinderbox, go into the text of this note, bound by words, find everything starting with the $sign, and then grab only the words that are letters following that. And because I don't use numbers in my attribute names. And then I want you to go ahead and build me a database of a dictionary of the attributes in my templates. So that's an example of what
you're getting there. And the word is this is an interesting comment on how technology corrupts the world. Dictionary is the wrong word. It's a glossary. Apple has opted out and uses a JSON structure, and it calls that a dictionary.
Got it.
Not a pants.
Yeah.
It's a JSON structure.
Yeah.
A glossary is what you do, and we keep stepping into this, Michael. You're very willing, cowpie finder. You want to confine the terminology to the domain of what you're working on.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Which humans are terrible at. Because you're taught at the earliest age, go to the dictionary, find another word, make your writing enjoyable.
Yep.
Hell on software. Make it boring. Every time I see this string of characters, I want it to mean the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and just so we're clear, though, the dictionary language means something in Tinderbox, which is it's a lookup. Here's a term, go look up that. That's essentially what it is. All right, guys, we're running over. Thank you very much. As always, super fun.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks,
Bye.
Michael.
Down.